Connor, when you first asked me to do this, you said, "Oh, can you talk about children?" And people often ask me to talk about that, and I suppose it's something I tend to shy away from a little bit, because I feel like there's so many experts out there who will be able to help us with the challenged child and all the, I guess the way around how we would see children when they come in, with the whole spectrum of different things that children could present with. But I feel from a chiropractic point of view, what we don't often talk about is what do we do with the child of the long-term client who is well, if you like. And so the big thing for us in our practice is making sure that we have a skill set, if you like, to assess those children from a non-pain based point of view. So it's not relying on the symptoms that the mum has said. It's about how do you assess that child as a whole being, and then how do you have those measurable changes for them. So I think over here we're all familiar with the term outcome measures. It's not something that we necessarily talk a lot about in our practice in terms of using that term, but we definitely talk about neurological improvement and nerve system function improvement. So what I'm going to do after this, because it's really tricky, I'm used to doing quite practical stuff with people. I'm not used to just trying to explain things, I suppose, live without physically being able to touch people. So I'm going to give Mike and Connor the worksheets that we use. There's an assessment form that has the pediatric or baby reflexes on it. It tells you the ages, it tells you what you look for, it tells you what should be found, and then we use those as our benchmark. So a lot of them are on there, and there will be some, I mean, I did it probably about 10 years ago now, well, maybe longer than that, but it hasn't significantly changed when we've continued to do learning. So it's a really thorough checklist, if you like, that you can use, and you can check a baby from start to finish with those tests, to want a better word. What I'm also going to give you all, because I really want you to have value from these workshops that we do, this live thing, is the assessment form that we would use. And it's not my form, it's a combination of all the different forms that other chiropractors have generously put on the Facebook groups, Chiropractic Pediatric Europe, I think it is, and we've taken that form and I've merged that to help it fit with the assessment form, and also things that are a little bit more congruent with us. And then the other really key thing I'm going to put on there is something we call a health survey. So when our babies come in from a really small age, all the way through to, we see older kids as well. We've just had a big influx at the moment of adopted children, actually, so they're coming in from about 6 to 10, and the great thing about that community is they're here for overall healthcare. I'll talk about them in a moment, but these forms can be used, the health survey form can be used on any age, really. You can adapt it slightly. It's based on the SFQ8, so the short form questionnaire 8, which we know is something that the GCC like us to use. So you can use that, and we give it out at the first appointment, and it talks about lifestyle things. So how well do you sleep? Is your child having health challenges? So we use that term, Sarah Ferrant's term, health expression or health challenges if they're expressing a cold, for example, or ear challenges, and it talks about different things down there. So there's a set of questions, and then it varies from poor to optimal, and then we give that out at week 4, and we give that out at week 8, and we give one out at week 12. So what we do is we look at those lifestyle indicators as well as the neurological checks that we have, and we use those neurological checks as we go through, as we recheck, as we reassess, and we also use the form. Most people here who are on this call, and there's a lot of people, which is very cool, most people here will have seen, if you're seeing children in practice, particularly babies, will definitely have seen someone whose mum has come in and has presented this baby to you and has said, I just know that something's not quite right. But the baby's gaining weight, the baby's meeting the milestones, the baby is effectively seen to be ticking all the boxes, but the mum knows that the baby isn't thriving for whatever reason, whether that's innately she's able to listen to herself, or because she has another child that she's able to think, well, this wasn't the same. And it's those children that we are in that prime position to help. So those children, they really need us because we have this wonderful skill set. So chemically and emotionally is probably how most of you are going to be helping your clients at the moment, regardless of their age. Physically, I say it all the time, we are the absolutely vital and missing part of the jigsaw. So it's not just about the physicality of moving well and exercising, it's also about the importance of the adjustment. So in terms of seeing the children, we do all the neurological checks that I will upload after or ask Connor to, and then we do the health survey, so we get a bigger picture about the lifestyle of that child as well. And so if you're educating your clients about what you can do to help them, about what chiropractic is, they will continue to bring their children in to be checked on a regular basis, and whatever that is for them is appropriate for them, and you can help them at whatever stage they're at to be helped if you have measurable changes to show them, and if you base it on lifestyle factors for them. Because if it's based on my child has torticollis and the kid's like this, my baby's like this, when the baby is like this, they don't need you. But if the baby has a retained reflex, or if the baby has challenges or different changes and the baby's adjusted and checked and it can be instant, that changes you can show the parents, but it's a in the moment measure. And if you've explained that it's in the moment measure and it's not a fixed endpoint, then that helps, again, I think, educate the family about what it is you do. So I guess I was trying to do that in a nutshell, Connor and Mike. I don't know if I've managed that or I've just kind of gone in circles.
No, I think that was pretty good, pretty succinct from my point of view. So I think probably one of the first starting blocks maybe that a few chiropractors struggle with is the fact that maybe this type of knowledge about well-being isn't really focused on a lot at university. So is there any books or resources you would suggest people start off with just to develop their own understanding of why somebody would need to come in asymptomatically or in order to improve their health?
For chiropractors or for clients?
For chiropractors first, say just to develop, say I didn't have any understanding really of it, what would I read? And then potentially for patients or clients as well when they come in.
So if you're wanting to see kids in practice that are wellness based, to use those terms, I think we're all familiar with them, I would really advise you to kind of read around what parents might initially think about you for. So the big thing at the moment, I guess, is going to be stuff like retained reflexes. So I can never remember her name. There's a lady that wrote the book. So she's called Sue something. I will look at it and I will post it on the group. But she talks, so she's not a chiropractor, but she talks about kind of around those things. Obviously, you had the Florianis on last week. And so their book for me is a little bit like a Bible with all our clients. So if we have mums and dads bringing children to care who aren't already our clients, there's an excellent section in that book, Why to Take My Child to a Chiropractor. And it is explained beautifully. Thank you, James. Yeah, Sue Peacock, thank you. Sue Peacock does the retained reflex book, and I like that because it's quite simple and it's a really easy read. So that would be a good one to read, because she talks about the reflexes and how they are kind of associated with, I guess, functional well-being, which is something that we can then take that forward from. The Well-Adjusted Baby book's great because it's just very readable and it's very digestible for people. So there are still chiropractors out there who don't know about those books. I like them because they're not technique based. I like them because they are open to people to interpret kind of where they're at. So, the term meet them where they're at drives me nuts, but I think it's really good to have a book like that is really helpful to people regardless of what their belief is, so they can really digest it. And there's a really nice section in there, and so we give that to all our clients actually at their initial assessment to take away, read that chapter and then bring it back at their report. As normally when they're coming in with the babies, they obviously don't have time. If it's a small baby, if it's a toddler, it's even more challenging to read it in the office, and we don't obviously photocopy it, but we've got lots of those books. So I think for me it's quite simple. I don't have lots of books that I would necessarily give to chiropractors or to parents, but I think that one is a good one because it explains asymptomatically, and then once you're starting to talk about asymptomatic stuff, it's across the board. So then it becomes more of the chestnut stuff is pretty good. You know, he does a nice kind of array about health, and you want to read stuff about separate to what chiropractic is. I think, you know, the technique books are great, but they're all about technique typically, and really what you're trying to do is you're not selling a technique, you are explaining about health. So it probably hasn't really answered your question, Connor.
No, it's good. I think one of the books you've maybe recommended in the past was also Sarah Farrant's book, The Vital Truth.
Yeah, she has two books. She just put it on Facebook today, actually. I don't know if you saw it, but she wrote The Vital Truth, which is amazing to dispel the myth, I guess, about where health comes from, how health is produced, and how it's demonstrated in a society. But my favourite book of hers is The Health Illusion, which is her second book, and that's because it's a lot of stories, and it's a lot of real life stories from them as a family, and it's a really lovely book for families to read if they're ready to, I guess, ask those different questions. Yeah, thank you. She's well up there for me. I guess it's so normal for me to think about those books. I can't think about them. But the other one that's good is Chiropractic First. It's quite an old book now. I bought my most recent one for 23p on Amazon. But that's a nice book because it really explains in a basic stance about what chiropractic is. So Claire's just put on there, Sarah Farrant, Farrant, is who wrote those books. You can get them on Amazon, and they come pretty quick. So the UCA did have them. I don't know if they do now. And I know obviously Melissa's reduced hours at the moment, so it's probably best to get it online.
Right. And so could you give us an example of how you would initiate that conversation? Say a person comes in for chiropractic care, an adult, and you know they have kids. How would you initiate that conversation to encourage them to bring their children in?
I'm a big fan of not speaking at people about things because I find a lot of people can close down. So for us in the practice, we have a lot of visual tools. So there's generally a lot of kids in the practice anyway running around. So it's quite an obvious thing. And that's quite nice because people then will often say, oh, are they getting adjusted, like if they're new. We have a children's area, which again is well populated, and we have lots of pictures on our walls. So we have a Celebrating Life wall where we have a lot of kids on there, so pictures of kids just smiling, being adjusted. We do have some testimonials on there, but really more about lifestyle benefit as opposed to, I mean, there's none up there about symptoms. You know, the kid with the wonky neck's up there, that's how he was, and then his picture afterwards like this. But for me, it's kind of those things. And when new clients come in, they have an office tour, so that wall, Celebrating Life wall, is shown to them as part of that office tour. So it's I suppose the seeds planted from the word go. The seeds planted from the first phone call in our office, but the seeds also planted from that initial approach into the practice. If someone was saying, oh, my grandson has got da-da-da-da-da-da, or is dealing with this and this, then I would normally say to them, you know, it's interesting, we see lots of kids in the practice with similar things. Did you know that chiropractors see lots of children as well? Or, you know, just very gently, just because let those things be known. Most people don't know. If they're asking those questions, they don't know that we can help them. But, you know, I would like to pride myself on being a good educator. And I remember, I talk about this a lot, Mike would have heard this story many times, I'm sure. But we had this client and he was with us for months. And he kept saying about his daughter that she just didn't sleep. Like she was really healthy, he said, but she didn't sleep. And I remember thinking, wow, like, I feel like we could help this child. And lots of other things kept coming up and he just kept saying, no, she's really healthy. And I must have asked him about half a dozen times, you know, we've got a family day, we've got an open day, we've got this. He had a massage with one of our CAs and immediately came out from that massage and booked her in to get checked. So, you know, it's the power of the team being empowered, and it didn't matter how I said it to him, for whatever reason, he wasn't hearing it. And then, you know, Vicky's she was a brilliant CA, and she just said, you know, that's the sort of thing we might be able to help with. We don't know why it's there, but let's come in and get it checked. And months later, he booked her in. So I think part of it is also having a team that are empowered, or a big part of it, to let them do a lot of the talking for you as well.
And then if you have, say, Not a baby, so a child who's maybe a few years old. And what would be the key sort of things you would be checking then to make sure that they are um, operating at optimum, so I would say, and functioning as well as they could be?
Like, you mean check wise, or you
Yeah,
mean lifestyle wise?
well, I suppose both. I suppose something that you can see an observable change in over time, and then, like I say, maybe a few of the lifestyle things.
Okay, so for us, a big thing, as I'm sure for you guys, is posture with the kids. You know, it's becoming more and more apparent. Flexibility is also a big thing. Like, a lot of the children are really inflexible. I don't, obviously we all know that they don't have short muscles, so it's a neurological based thing. So they are, I guess, the big things: range of movement, the real basic stuff, because the more challenged, the more we're seeing kids now in that middle age bracket, the more challenged that they are, way more than when I got into practice. So I don't think that's experience from our point of view. I think it's the lifestyle that they are having. The week before we closed the practice, with our current situation, the children were way more subluxated than the adults, way more. You know, like, they were difficult to adjust, they were coming in like this, the tonal issue of their system really challenged. The tone, posture, range of movement, flexibility is a big thing. They would be the key things that I would check on children of all ages, because they are the most, for me, the most reliable. And the retain reflex checks are obviously really important, but they are more specific to different things, I feel. And then lifestyle factors. Now, for kids, you're looking at sleep is a big thing, appetite, if they are, you know, able to kind of bounce back more quickly from challenges. So are they falling over less, or are they healing quicker? Those, you know, the basic stuff, really, because they seem quite simple to us, but when you put well-adjusted children into a situation with children that are more challenged, then it becomes really obvious. And parents take great pride in coming in and saying to us, you know, oh, I can just see that they seem healthier, they stand straighter, they stand taller, and you know, they're the only child that isn't off this month ill at school. And you know, those are the things, which is why the health survey form that I'm going to share, I think, is so important. Because with kids, they can, you know, anyone who's got children will know that they could go to bed, you know, with a raging fever, and the body's going to do what it's going to do, and the next day it was like nothing happened other than they grew 4 inches. So it's so flexible on that basis. The lifestyle stuff for me is probably more important than, I guess, in the overall picture.
I know Liam, your husband, does a lot of eye tracking and things of that nature as well. It's something that maybe chiropractors don't do routinely with everybody who comes in to see them, but could you maybe just touch on why eye tracking is important?
Not really. No, I'm just kidding. Liam he'd be the first to tell you that he did all the carrot training. So he was a carrot diplomate in '96. And he said that, you know, tens of thousands of pounds and hundreds of hours later, he came full circle and realised that actually, if we were doing all this specific neuro stuff for the kids, or, you know, adults, but particularly kids with all the learning challenges, we all have a nerve system. We all need to have checks to help us function at optimum. So he kind of came full circle in the belief and understanding of what subluxation is and how our body creates it, and physical, chemical, emotional stress. But they are smaller windows, and they're very specific windows into levels of stress on the nerve system. So we do convergence as a standard thing on most people, and you're looking for dominance, hemisphericity. And then obviously, you know, it's not my area of expertise, but then you will help to fine tune their care and focus in on, you know, particularly with younger boys in particular, if they've got the labels that they've been given on the spectrum, you will then be able to fine tune your care and help effectively rebalance the nerve system that way. So that's, yeah, he does a lot of the very cool stuff. Generally, Connor, if I'm really honest, anybody that comes in that's a bit unusual or a bit like, oh, actually, I'll say, let's just do a little bit of an extra check with Liam, please. And he'll generally just reassure me, because again, it's back to what we do. If we know what we do and we do our skill well, and we're very, very good at our skill, the majority of your clients will heal well with your expertise. So I mean, you've heard me say many times, I'm almost anti-technique. Like I really feel quite strongly about that, because we are all really good at what we do if we just focus on whatever technique we choose and skill we choose, and we fine-tune that and be the best we can. Then it doesn't really matter what check you do or how you do it, and it doesn't matter what adjustment you do and how you do it, as long as it's the best you can deliver in that moment. And that's our obligation, that's our responsibility, I feel, to be the best that we can at our skill and develop it from there. So yeah, he does the check for hemisphericity, basically.
Kel, at this time, obviously, with practices being closed, you know, your beautiful kids are fortunate enough to have you guys checking and looking after them. But are there any things that you would say to kind of parents who have had kids under care, you know, some things to look out for, or tips or tricks, or anything that they can do to kind of monitor and maintain their kids' health during this stressful period? Gosh,
that's a great question, Mike. And my children might disagree. They're at home with us all day, every day. So like, this is, you know, I feel the best thing for families is to just be honest and have a lot of dialogue with their children. The week before, so we closed Monday. That week leading up on Monday, we had obviously the kids coming in who are fairly new in with the adopted families, and they've had the most phenomenal changes, but there's obviously a great deal of anxiety around it, because it's going to be a break from routine. These children have sensory challenges, and they were worried about them not being regularly checked because they'd seen such a remarkable difference in them. And I just said to them, they were already addressing the chemical and emotional aspects of it, and then it's really about the dialogue. It's one of the brilliant gifts that this time has given us is to be able to slow down, and children will be okay if the parents are okay. And if we're not okay, it's okay to say we're not okay. And it's great to talk them through that. And I guess it's being there for them. It's a lot of time if you can spend it with them. And if you're not okay, it's also saying that you're not okay. You know, I was just about to swear then. I know that is live, so I'm desperately trying not to swear. You know, like I lost it the other day, and my middle son said, I know, Mummy, it's just because you didn't get enough sleep. And I was like, okay, thanks. And just kind of checked, and I was like, yeah, thank you. And I said, that's actually a really good point. So then I just got an early night, and I said, thanks for helping me realise that. And then his challenging behaviour shifted as well. So he was being a bit grumpy. I blew my top. It was an epic parenting moment, and he was like, oh, and then I said, thank you. You know, so I think we're just all kind of doing the best we can to get through what we're doing when we can't physically check the kids. But I keeping in close contact with clients. So our clients have been emailing us quite a lot. We've been doing lots of regular emails out, and you know, they've been updating me. And it interested me that all the adopted families, without question, have just said how well the children have actually coped with this time, because they've just all stopped. They've had downtime. They haven't had the flare-ups or the panic that they thought they were going to have, the emotional outbursts. They've just been able to navigate it really well without being adjusted, interestingly, you know, because they put the other things in place. So it's been really nice to hear that. It doesn't mean that they don't need to be adjusted, obviously, but it was just nice to hear that they are able to cope with it better.
Awesome. I think that's such sound advice, and I think that golden nugget is you know, worth it in itself on being this call. And Carl, just kind of going back to what you were talking about with respect to kind of asymptomatic kids, are there kind of common traits or common things that you see in parents who bring in kids who are, you know, for lack of better terms, sort of healthy?
Generally, parents think they're healthy when they're not, I think. We all know that, you know, health is not the absence of disease or symptoms, but I think a lot of parents think they're okay, and then when the kids get checked and they can see the difference in them, like, you know, if you do spinal lamp where you're stroking the side and the child really goes one and then doesn't go the other, parents see that, you know, and they're like, but the child's not symptomatic. And I think children are a great opportunity for the parents to be able to see a different way of being, if you like. So there's not necessarily a common thing. The thing I do see a lot, that parents bring the child in to get checked when the baby, especially if it's the first baby, is quite fussy, and almost without exception, the mum is usually not having a good time and is usually quite stressed. And I can speak about this bluntly because I was one of those mums, you know, like I was, you know, we were going to do this and this time and these days, and like I was a chiropractor and my child had the C word and Liam was like, we can't mention colic, and I was like, no, but the child was unsettled because I was unsettled. So I see that a lot, and it doesn't matter what checks you do on those children. You know, we took him to all different chiropractors and stuff. The nerve system's a little bit wired. The tone's, you know, more increased. They're not a happy child usually, but it's, for me, that's just reflective of the parent at the time. It's not that we're to blame. It's just that we might not have got used to what's going on. And children are here to, I really believe, as an opportunity for us to see what we need to see. They're here to shine a light to help us learn better, really. So, and that's a tough one to learn. That's a harsh parenting thing to learn. But yeah, so not really. I don't feel that there's a common trait. They're all individual, but I do feel that we're seeing a lot more tonal challenges now, a lot more postural challenges, and a lot less with the tone is the inflexibility that we see. That's really in all ages, female, male. It doesn't seem to make much difference, I don't think.
Great. We have a question from Carl asking, whenever you're seating on the phone for people to come in for care and bring their children in, what would you generally say? What's the sort of script you would use with that?
It's just really simple. It's just, is this appointment for you or your whole family? That's it. Is this appointment for you or your whole family? I think in 18 years of practice, I've had one person say, oh, yeah, well, I wanted to get my baby checked too. And then we were like, oh, where are we going to fit that in? But it just plants a seed. It's just it. Is that appointment for you or your whole family? That's it.
Okay. And then do you have any sort of family packages or anything like that to incentivize people for bringing their family into care?
We do care plans, so you can buy, I guess, bulks of adjustments, and then that can be shared amongst the family. So one of the adopted families that we have in, they bought one of our, I guess, our middle-sized package of care, and they're sharing it out, and then when that finishes, that will go off. We don't do a discounted fee for children. We couldn't open our doors if we did, because it was like we just have too many children. So I also don't feel that, I feel that to be able to see children successfully and well without being arrogant, like you have to have a much better skill set if you're going to see a lot of kids. So you're not paying time, it's the expertise, I guess, that you're paying for. So we don't discount for children on the initial assessment or for care. We do family discounts. So if, you know, they come in together, then there's a discount for that. So if you want to buy 50 adjustments, there's a greater discount than if you buy 20. So but if you're buying 50 because all three of you are getting adjusted, then it works out better that way. Kids don't take more time, not really, no, Carl. Not for us, really. One of the adopted children that we're seeing is, I think, probably one of the most challenging children I've ever seen. I could barely assess her when she came in, but I knew the trauma she'd had, and she let me touch her neck on visit 3. And from her third, well, that was the first time I could adjust her. She'd been in the office 3 times, and she was adjusted on the Thursday evening. And her mum said, for the first time ever, her judo, like all I did was touch and hold her upper right C1. That was all she let me do. And in the kids area, we sat on the floor. That took time. I was over there for about 10 minutes with her. And her judo instructor on the Saturday said it was the first time ever she'd been able to do the whole class from start to finish without having a meltdown. And she stood there, and he even said her behaviour was even better than the other children in the class. But you know, generally if the kids are healthy and well, it doesn't take long to check them. We don't often adjust that much because they're under regular care. So, but the really challenged ones, yeah, they take more time.
Carl, we've got a question here from Jess asking, how often do you recommend asymptomatic kids get checked?
It's down, like I used to be really hardcore about this until I stopped being a chiropractic a-hole, and it used to be like, you've got to get them checked every week, and it just doesn't work for people. Like, not everybody wants that. So my kids get checked every week, minimally, because that's what I do. but not every family is there or wants that for their kids. So we have people whose children are nearly, like one boy's about 9 years old, he's been adjusted since he was two, because his brother's in, and they've been adjusted every week or checked every week or their whole life. So for them it's completely normal. We have other kids who come in, like the mum brings a child in every 3 months, because we talk about healing cycles being 3 monthly. So she's like, well, there might be a big change in 3 months, or she'll bring him in if he has a big leap. You know, like if he's gone to nursery, she brought him in when he went to nursery, she brought him in when he grew massively and went up 3 shoe sizes. So any time that she feels there's a big growth, she'll bring him in. So it's not what I would do for my kids, but I love the fact that she feels that the door's open, so she can always bring him in. We have one lady whose daughter was adjusted very regularly to start off with, and then she got, for the first year of life, she was regularly checked, and we talk about that being really important time to check. She wasn't adjusted every time she was checked, but then at year 1 she was like, well, she's done a lot of growth now, she's going off to nursery, I'm going back to work. And then she brought her in, she's 3.5, we had a long phone chat before, and she brought her back in to get her checked. She had half a dozen adjustments over about probably the same length of time. She was much more stable functionally, and then she's gone off again. Now, interestingly, her dad's, well, he was under regular care, and the mum will come as and when as well. So we see a whole variety, and my big thing now is to make sure people know that they can always come back. You know, our doors are always open when they're ready, when they're not ready, when they want us, when they aren't going to ever come back again, but we always let them know that they can. And more often than not, they will always come back at some stage. I had a lady whose daughter's just turned 6, and she brought her in when she was a baby. I saw her for 3 months of care, and she still recommends us on local Facebook groups. Just happened to see her daughter was 6, and they had a parade around the street, and she was on there, and I was like, oh my goodness, that's the baby that we saw. She still recommends us now. Like, she doesn't get her child checked, but she knows that we can help. So it's not really a very clear answer, because I don't really have a clear thing, I guess. It's not cookie cutter.
Yeah, absolutely. Kel, one other thing obviously is you've become kind of the go-to expert for a lot of chiropractors. You know, I've certainly sought your help out before with cases, and have referred clients to see you when kind of I felt that they needed a sort of a more specialist touch, in a sense. But I assume and appreciate maybe that wasn't always the case. And if there are chiros out there who want to see more kids in practice, or want to get more into kind of the family's kind of side of care, are there any strategies you've used in the past, or conversations that you would suggest having, or ways that you would recommend chiros can go about seeing more kids or families?
Thank you, Mike. Your words are always so kind. Thank you. Yeah, do an open day. Have a kids day. Have a kids open day, and invite people in. We did when the UCA ran their school campaign that they did. We really pushed that. We had lots of kids come in and get checked, all ages, and you can go out to local active birth groups. So that's a really good way of seeing lots of smaller babies. Like you definitely have heard me say this before, I was not on the paediatric list at college. In fact, I was not allowed to see babies at college, or pregnant ladies. You know, so you don't have to have done stuff at college, but I did go, and I spent a lot of time and effort going to lots of brilliant people to teach me what I needed to know skill set wise. So I had this tool, or this bag of tools, and then could effectively practice until, you know, you just start to pick up things on a daily basis and you see more kids. But just, I mean, I guess people don't know that we see kids, so you need to tell them, you know, just ask them. We're having an open day, but it's always good to do something as an event, I think, for children, because, you know, even if it's just a week, like we're doing after school checks for kids, because all parents are worried about rucksacks and stuff and computer time. And we had a set of scales where people would bring their school bags in and weigh them, and then we would we did pictures of their posture without the bag on, with the bag on. We got them to stand on the bilateral weight scales with the bag on, without the bag on. You know, like we did stuff like that to educate people as well. Can I actually just want to say, I should just clarify, just on Jess's question as well. It's we always give the chiropractic message. So for us, it's really about what the value of chiropractic can be. It doesn't mean that I don't tell them if they want to come in every 3 months. That's not my best recommendation, but I certainly don't shame them into thinking it's not okay. But we never, ever don't give the chiropractic message, because I feel that's our responsibility to do that, knowing what we know. So we help them wherever they want to be seen and how they want to be seen, but we don't water that down. And when they come in and it's every 3 months and they say to me, oh, my child's been great, and I check and things aren't great, then I'll kindly, with love, but I'll tell them that as well. So I think I should have clarified that, sorry. Yeah.
And then Cal, obviously, just, kind of following on from that is, you mentioned having the skill set to see kids in practice. And now I've done your basic and your advanced pregnancy workshops and can't speak highly enough about them. Can you just give everyone on the call a few more details about how to kind of sharpen the saw, basically? How do you get better at doing kids? And can you give us a few details maybe about your and Haley's workshops as well?
Thank you. Yeah, I'd love to. Seeing kids is really going to hang out with people that see kids. So if someone sees a lot of kids in practice, like go and have an observation afternoon with them, but like not do the whole afternoon, maybe go for a few hours and just spend time with them and ask them. Some chiropractors I know haven't even held a baby. Until I had my first child, I hadn't ever changed a baby's nappy. I was like, what? How'd you do this? Like, thankfully, Lynn's got so many nieces and nephews, it was fine. But if you haven't changed a nappy or held a baby, like, it's going to be tough to see them in practice. So I guess trying to find that way in life generally is quite helpful. And then Steve Williams is not doing them this year, he said, but his courses are really good. I really like them a lot. They're very neuro-based, and the ICPA stuff is also really, really good. So for me, they were really, really helpful to feel more confident. And then I just told people about what we did. I guess that, I felt confident because I did the checks, and then we went and told people, what we were doing. And getting into the mum groups is a really nice way, because once you have a mum on board who's had a great change with their child, they talk a lot. They hang out a lot with each other, they talk a lot. And Connor's got so many siblings, he's naturally great with kids, but if you haven't got that, it's quite difficult. You need to then have another skill to present yourself with as well. We run the pregnancy workshops through Haley and Kelly, so we do day 1 and day 2. I've just recently done it in Germany, actually, with a lovely Stina, fabulous bunch of people over there, and we merged it into one. But it's just a really basic assessment protocol that you can use on pregnant ladies. It's a 5-step protocol. I am Webster certified, but it's obviously not Webster. But it just teaches us like a easy, reproducible, good way to check pregnant ladies each time from top to toe, and you can do that in volume as well. So I just really I love doing it, because if we see the pregnant ladies, then we don't see the children who are having the challenging births. That's how we got into doing pregnancy. Liam and I were just seeing this massive influx of kids who weren't asymptomatic. They were symptomatic, and I was like, this is really not okay. Like, we need to be telling people we can help with this, because we can, and nobody else has that skill set. I mean, we speak to midwives all the time, and they don't know what we can do to help, and when they find out, they're really excited. So we then went a step behind and said, well, we can still help those kids, but really what we want to see is we want to see the pregnant ladies. And then from that, we go beyond that. We want to see them pre-pregnancy, ideally. So then that's into philosophy and stuff. So, but yeah.
Lovely. Just one more question then before we finish up. Obviously, babies and sometimes children don't always conform to a schedule. So is there any tips you have for your scheduling of adjustments or flexibility when it comes to taking care of maybe parents who are still breastfeeding their children or anything like that?
Yeah. If you're going to see babies and pregnant ladies in practice, you have got to be prepared to improvise, really. It's just what happened, because the baby did the most enormous poo all the way up its back before it left the house, so they're late, right? We work open plan. We see we're kind of busier across. So it's easier for us when our CAs are empowered to help negotiate that. But it is a bit messy, it can be, and the schedule of care for us is the same, whether it's not the same regularity, but the healing cycle is the same. And my great mentor Connor taught me this, that about a 3-month healing cycle, and we're seeing it a lot at the moment in the news, about 12 weeks. The 12-week cycle is coming up all the time across the board with what's going on at the moment, and it's brilliant, and I love it, because it's like, well, kind of makes our job easier post this, because it's like, well, we're familiar with 12-week healing cycles. So we always talk about 12-week healing cycles, and we talk about regularity during that time. And sometimes they don't stick to it. Sometimes it's tricky, and you just have to, I feel, as soon as that starts to become a challenge, just address it. So, we know, Connor, it's been difficult for you to get here at that time. Is that maybe nap time for the baby? Do you want to come in a bit later? You need to find out why they're not sticking to their schedule. Because I have mums who stick to their schedule really well, who've got 3 kids under 4, and they get here. So it's usually a bit of a different question as to why they're not sticking to their schedule. So I guess find out why they aren't, and then you can adapt it around that. But we don't really have people not have a problem following their schedule.